What up, nerds? Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie. Happy Monday. Welcome to another week of reading shenanigans. After experiencing a little bit of a reading slump over the weekend after I finished reading Malice by John Glenn, I finally did get up this morning and finish reading the Atlantis Bloodline. And I was extremely disappointed. This book started out so strong. I loved it. So it started out being told from one of the main characters' point of view, and about 20% in, it switched to a different character's point of view and gave us a little new material, and then it turned around and retold the first 20% from his perspective, which was repetitive. I mean, we had literally just read it from Ada's perspective. I didn't immediately need a retelling of that same portion from Kai's perspective, especially because not a whole lot of it changed. I thought to myself, maybe there is something of importance that's going to play into the story later, and it never did. And while the ending did get a little interesting, it was very action-packed. The final fight between the good guys and the bad guys was just too easy, and it just left me very dissatisfied. So I did end up giving that one a 2-star review. I'm so sorry. I wanted to read something to redeem that feeling of disappointment I got from Atlantis Bloodline, so I looked at what was remaining on my TBR, which is The Help, A Memory Called Empire, and Recursion by Blake Crouch. I've seen so many positive things about this book, I decided this would be the one. I also really love that cover. I mean, that'll just keep me entertained for hours. I had the most hilarious YouTube video sent to me by my buddy Justin Leland, and it is Where the Wild Things Are. It's a YouTube video where Christopher Walken is reading Where the Wild Things Are. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the disclaimer. Do not let your children watch that video. Caught up on Motherland, Fort Salem. I had a couple of episodes sitting there I recorded, so I caught up on that show. I'm really enjoying it. It is different. I like that I can't predict where it's gonna go. It's a completely different take on witches than what I've seen before, so that's refreshing. I do enjoy that. But it's a really good show. If you haven't checked it out, you should definitely give it a watch. Other than that, I don't believe I did anything interesting today, except I dusted and cleaned the blinds. Alright guys, I'll check in with you later. Hey book friends, welcome to Tuesday, April the 22nd. I am checking in real quick. I have some other videos I want to get filmed today, but I want to do my check-in real fast. So I crawled in bed last night and I finally got started reading Recursion by Blake Crouch. I am 80 pages in and I am really interested in this book. At first I thought it might be a little over my head. Blake Crouch really throws some big old words into this book, and I was like, oh man, is this gonna be a little too far over my head for me to enjoy? Am I gonna understand what is happening? And so far, I'm with it. It just reached like a really good part. I unfortunately got to that part. So last night, what I read last night was a bunch of setup and just kind of explaining. It's got 2 timelines that you're kind of flipping back and forth between. So it worked on kind of getting the setting put there for you to understand kind of like what's about to happen. So got to that, and This morning I got up and I don't normally do this. I normally get up, I try to get all of my chores done and knocked out before I'll start reading, because usually when I start, I don't want to stop. So this morning I was like, you know what? I got up before my pups and my husband did. I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and pour my first cup of coffee. I'm gonna crack this book open. And holy moly, man, I reached a point where it got real interesting. A lot of action, and I did not want to stop reading it. And of course, I knew it was gonna happen. I knew I was gonna start reading it, and I wasn't gonna want to put it down. And then my pups are coming in. They're like, "Hey, Mama, we hungry." So I got started on my day. I haven't been able to sit back down yet and pick it up, but I want to get my chores knocked out, get some more reading in on this puppy. I think I'm probably gonna mow through this book pretty quick. Hey guys, it's Thursday, April 23rd, checking in. I should have checked in yesterday because I did so much stuff yesterday. I've still been working on Recursion by Blake Crouch. I'm on page 278. I will finish this today. I really had hoped to have Recursion finished by now. I got up first thing this morning and read a pretty good chunk, but then I sat down and started editing, and then when I got done editing, I decided to vacuum and mop, and then it was time to make lunch, and then one thing led to another, and here I am. I did finish one book today. I finished Revolver by Michael Patrick Hicks. I listened to the audiobook. I know y'all have heard me say I can't do audiobooks. I decided to give it a try because I saw a review for this book by Brad Proctor, which I'll link him below, and it was really interesting. And what really put the nail in the coffin for me to read this book is he mentioned that there were some free copies available. Who's gonna say no to a free book, especially one that got such a great review from Brad? Suddenly I am halfway through this book, and it's like, wow. I mean, it is a short book. I believe it's like 60 pages long, but it's so good. I finished that one today. So I ended up finishing Revolver, and then since I signed up for Audible, they gave me 2 credits. So after I finished Revolver, I had already used one of my credits because last night I was watching some more BookTube, and The Perks of Books posted a review about Widow's Point, which is it's a horror story. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna get it on audiobook, because if it's gonna scare me, then why not, listen to it. A good scary story is always best when it's told to you, right? I had that one ready to fire up. I had that one ready to go as soon as I finished Revolver. And so I haven't really gotten deep off into it yet. I've basically kind of got the setup and the premise, and I believe I'm like right when the action is about to start. So I'm really excited to get more of that in. Thank you, Brad Proctor, for the review on Revolver. It was an amazing recommendation. It was phenomenal. Thank you, Michael Nip, for being the one to tip the balance to get me to try audiobooks. Thank you, Erica, with The Perks of Books, for that awesome review of Widow's Point to give me my next quick fix on an audiobook. So yeah, that's where I'm at so far today. So I will definitely knock out Recursion today. As you can see over my right shoulder, that's my TBR shelf. So the last book that's on it is A Memory Called Empire. And then I do have one other ebook that's on my TBR for April, and that's The Help. But today only being the 23rd, should totally be able to knock those 2 out. So I will have a month where I finish all of my TBR. I'm stoked. All right, guys, check in with you later. Guys, I am checking in for my final entry before I get this sucker edited and up for you guys to watch in the morning. It is Sunday, April 26th. I actually cannot remember the last time I checked in. I think it was Thursday. Friday, I actually didn't get a whole lot of reading in. I know that I got up and read a little bit of a memory called Empire with my first cup of coffee. Reading with my first cup of coffee has turned into the new norm for me. I used to never would do that because it's usually so hard for me to put a book down once I pick it up, and I usually try to get all my chores done before I do that. I was watching a recent upload from the Perks of Books, and she mentioned instead of getting up and picking up your phone and scrolling through social media, read a book instead. And I have found that I have really enjoyed that. It kind of helps my brain wake up and get active, and in turn that kind of sets my metabolism off. I believe Friday the only reading I did was that morning with my first cup of coffee. It just kind of was one of those days where one thing turned into another. So yesterday, so normally on Saturday and Sunday, I don't get a whole lot of reading in. You know, the weekends are time that my husband and I, we spend that time doing things together. So we got up, we watched a little bit of TV, ate some lunch, and then sat down and we literally played video games for about 6 hours straight. And so afterwards, I was like, you know, I think I want to sit down and read for a while. And he goes, all right, cool. So he played Call of Duty with some of his friends, and I spent about 4 hours reading. So the first thing I picked up was a memory called Empire because I wanted to get this one finished this month. When I first started reading it, I actually was kind of poking a little fun at it because that's what you do when something has the upper hand with you. And what I mean by that is this book is this one, of the three that I've read in the BookTube SFF science fiction category, this one is the most science fiction-y. And it's almost over the top. It's like, it has a really good underlying story. It's the political murder of an ambassador from a space station, and the new ambassador from that space station is trying to figure out who murdered her predecessor. Okay, that's a great story. I'm enjoying it. There is some humor in it that I'm really loving, but it's got a whole lot of $10 words. My brain just kind of shuts off. Like, I can take one or two thrown in there, but when you're just it's a steady flow of huge words, it's just so different, I guess. And so it was kind of firing over my head a lot. So as a result, I would lose a little bit of interest, and it would also bore me. Suddenly I realized, you know, I'm falling asleep and it's only 7 o'clock. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna put this one down and break it up. So then what I decided to read is it's an arc that I got approved for on NetGalley called The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. And oh my word, the difference in the two books is night and day. And that is the reason why I like to break up books. A memory called Empire basically was shutting me down. So I turned around and picked up The Hollow Places, which I actually knew nothing about this book. I applied for the art because I liked the cover art that they showed. The first 20% was setup, getting the characters in place. And it was very realistic, it was believable, and there was a good amount of humor sprinkled in. And it was so good, like I was no longer sleepy, I was engaged, I was having a good time. After I read that one for about an hour, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go back to a memory called Empire and see if I can knock a little bit more out. So I spent about another 45 minutes reading that one. It was once again putting me to sleep, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna put this one down. And it kind of clouded up here, and we had like a little sprinkling of rain. It was dark. I'm like, I'm gonna crawl in bed with my audiobook, which is Widow's Point by Richard and Billy Chismar, which I do know that one is, it's basically a story about a haunted lighthouse. So I laid in bed, put that in, put my headphones in, and started listening to that one. But the narrator's voice was so soothing that I probably listened for about 30 minutes and then I conked out. So I'll have to go back and find what I remember and start that one over. So that brings me to today. So I got up this morning and I really meant to read a memory called Empire, but The Hollow Places was just calling to me. So I fired up my Kindle to read that one. I think I read another 30% into the book just this morning and discovered that it is actually a horror story. I had no idea. I mean, I kind of went into it blind, and I was just going along, and so I'm reading this story about Kara, who actually, her divorce just became final with her husband. She was kind of at a loss what to do because he was the breadwinner, he was the stable one, and her Uncle Earl swoops in and saves the day by offering to let her stay with him because she was like, there's no way she could live with her mom. Uncle Earl lives in a museum, and it's called the Wonder Museum, and it's basically full of taxidermied animals and a whole bunch of hubbubaloo that are just odds and ends he picks up from estate sales, things people send him, and stuff he makes himself. It is so cute. I love it. Well, all of a sudden, it takes a hard left turn into Albuquerque. It is creepy in a way that it's a little scary, but you can't stop reading it. So I am enjoying that book so much. It's gonna be hard to focus on any of my other ones until I finish that one, so I have a feeling I'm gonna finish that one today. If I don't fall off the deep end playing video games, which could totally and most likely will happen. But it was another fantastic week of reading. I've had the best week. I finished living in some worlds and started living in some new ones. It's just a great time to be a reader. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much for stopping by to see what's going on in my corner of the world. I love you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.